Steam confirms what happens when you die, the Stellar Blade subreddit has become exactly what you would expect, and a streamer completes one of the most insane Baldur's Gate 3 runs ever. I'm Ash Dixon, and this is Jinx News. The ongoing debate over physical versus digital media is a constant in gaming. On the one hand, digital games make them easier to access and they're better for the environment without those plastic boxes and those pesky discs. On the other hand, you don't actually own any physical thing for your money. Plus our shelves are now full of nothing but pop vinyls and books. But something I'm not sure that many of us have considered is what will happen to the vast game collection you've amassed in digital libraries when we leave this mortal coil. That was until this post on Resetera from user Delete12345. They were interested as to the answer to this question and so messaged Steam support to ask if they could include their Steam library in their will. And the answer wasn't great. Steam replied saying that Steam accounts and games are non-transferable, and Steam support can't provide someone else with access to the account or merge its contents with another account. So basically, you can spend serious amounts of money on building a massive library of video games and have absolutely no protection over that investment whatsoever if something unfortunate happens. You give us your money and you own absolutely nothing. Many users replied to the post saying it's not really that much of an issue so long as your loved ones have your login credentials so they can still access everything. But that kind of isn't the point. You wouldn't accept a corporation keeping hold of any of your other valuables in the event of your death. Oh, hi sir, we're from Ford. Sorry for your loss, but your wife didn't actually own her Ford Focus, so we're just gonna take that back now, thanks. It's a trend we're seeing with other forms of media too. When was the last time you bought a Blu-ray or an album? In fact, when was the last time you actually bought something and still physically own it? In fact, actually, you can throw that in the comments. Let's get the chat and, the algorithm going. Either way, it may be worth telling your nearest and dearest your password to your Steam account if you don't want it disappearing alongside you one day. Just don't tell Valve because that's still probably against the terms and conditions. Stellar Blade has had a rather interesting life. From the very beginning, there's been a huge amount of emphasis on just how sexualized the lead character is, which is a shame really because the game itself is actually very good. And while most people just rolled their eyes and got on with their lives, there were others who got all hot and flustered in multiple ways, saying things like, "Why aren't we allowed sexy female characters anymore?" As if we haven't had smoking hot playable babes like Toadette for decades now. That same crowd got very upset when the game dropped and Sony suddenly swept in and adjusted some of the outfits, which I can kind of understand because ultimately this was a bait and switch. But to the extent of posting selfie videos on a petition site, well, now you've lost me.
Fight for it and let's win this.
Months later though, this is an issue that some Stellar Blade fans are still very upset about. You see, the game recently had some DLC outfits dropped and those too have also been censored. As you can see, originally that mesh fabric was very transparent. Now, it is less so. Funnily enough, this has actually caused a debate within the same crowd because some people like how the new fabric makes it look like she's not wearing any underwear at all. Welcome to video game discourse in 2024, everyone. In fact, it's strange going to the Stellar Blade subreddit 1 month after release because it's basically just become a gallery of Eve thirst traps, which to be honest, shouldn't surprise anyone. But do you know who will never tease spicy content and then censor it later down the line? This YouTube channel, because we make news, and that would be weird. And if you sign up to our Patreon Jinx Plus, you'll also get access to loads of documentaries and gameplay videos, exactly as advertised. Baldur's Gate 3 truly was the gift that kept on giving last year. On top of just being a fantastic game in its own right, it generated so many stories for us to talk about. Countless Game of the Year awards, Thomas the Tank Engine mods, companion body pillows. It truly made us feel like we belong in a world where anything is possible. But while we've had a much needed lull of BG3 news, a Twitch streamer has just completed one of the most insanely difficult runs ever and it just deserves to be talked about. Luality is her name and Pain is her game apparently because she's just completed Baldur's Gate 3 on honor mode with no companions, no buying, selling or stealing from NPCs, no consuming tadpoles and no long or short rests. Now bear in mind, honor mode alone is the hardest difficulty where 1, you can't load up past saves and 2, if you die, that's it. Game over, save deleted. Apparently that's too much of a breeze for Luality, however, and she decided to go full lone wolf. Now, the true saving grace of the run was consumables. Obviously, potions were basically her only way to heal, but if you were anything like me when you were playing Baldur's Gate 3, you'd loot a whole load of potions and then totally forget to actually use them. Now, this definitely isn't Luality's first rodeo. Back in November, she made headlines after min-maxing her way to soloing each of the game's bosses in just one turn on the hardest difficulty. She also famously rolled 4 consecutive nat 1s on stream, which has the hilariously unlucky odds of 1 in 160,000. Basically, despite celebrating her victories in the most wholesome way possible, Luality is a god when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3, and not content with her latest challenge, she's now cooking up ways to make it even harder, which just respect. And it makes me curious, what's the most difficult gaming challenge you've ever completed? What's your proudest achievement? Let us know down in the comments. Why not like and subscribe while you're at it, and we'll see you tomorrow.